in a song. We're first going to watch a little video, and then
This meeting is being recorded.
and then we're all going to sing a song together.
Okay. This body and leave this body to the bridge for the healing of this land. Everyone, make the river flow through us and it be from our heads. Teach us, oh, Holy Mother, to bring peace to the land. Teach us, oh, Holy Mother, to bring peace to the land. Okay, some people want to sing that part, and the other rest to sing the main part. Yeah, here we go. Breathe this body, be a bridge for the healing of this land. May the river flow through us, and free from our hands. We are, holy water. We are, born from the land. Teach us, oh, great Mother, to bring peace to the land. That was an advanced song.
Thank you all so much. That was recorded at a song circle that we held in Joshua Tree, California on May 4th with fellow singer Arne Batson, as many of you know. So welcome to Freedom Church the Poor. Our service today, What Grows from Blood-Soaked Soil, What Grows from Abandoned Soaked Soil. It's a title that actually comes from a poem that is going to be our sacred text offered up by Sheila Barefoot today. And so I want to read the description of the service. The Freedom Church of the Poor is holding space for indigenous responses and alternatives to our current death-dealing society. What are some indigenous responses to this Kairos moment? Join us as we bear witness to the plight, fight, and insight of indigenous cultural workers and organizers who will share their vision for a better path and ground us in art, prayer, and intention. Joining us today is Sheila Barefoot, an environmental justice advocate. After earning a degree in genetics and plant biology from the UC Berkeley, she worked at the Native American Health Center in San Francisco for 2 years as a diabetes-focused health educator before earning a master's of environmental health at Hopkins, where she continued her focus on indigenous health disparities. She's had the privilege of working with learning from dozens of grassroots environmental justice organizations. She loves writing poetry for many reasons, but two key ones are that she believes some concepts are best understood through the metaphor and wordplay poetry allows. It's also a more eloquent alternative to screaming. Thank you for joining us, Sheila. And we also have joining us Jessie Dearn-Water, organizer and speaker for Citizens Resistance at Fermi 2. CRAFT, so it's C-R-A-F-T, is an indigenous-led, intergenerational, multiracial, and cross-cultural grassroots organization dedicated to environmental justice and the well-being of the earth. By centering earth-honoring traditions and place-based respect at the forefront of our vision, we focus on nuclear safety in Michigan.
The recording has stopped.
Region. So thank you all so very much. I would love to, I'm going to share my screen, and Sierra, I was wondering if you could share our mission statement.
The Freedom Church of the Poor is a spiritual and political home for movement leaders. We believe
I know it's here. It's okay. I think the connection is getting a little.
dignity and value of all life.
Oh no, is that happening for anyone else? Are we getting a
And in
connection?
a world
Yeah, I'm hearing it too.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, same. Okay, it's okay. No worries, Sierra. We're having a little bit of an issue with technical difficulties. I want to make sure it wasn't on my end. So we're going to see, I'm going to continue with the mission. The Freedom Church of the Poor is a spiritual and political home for movement leaders. We believe in the fundamental dignity and value of all life, and in a world of abundance where all can thrive. We gather as a community of faith to support and care for each other. We commit to realizing the abundant world of God promises by identifying, developing, and uniting leaders who will build a movement to end poverty led by the poor. In this community and through our commitment to this struggle, we also seek to rediscover and share a vision and practice of religion that is rooted in truth, justice, and love. And I'm going to let Adam read the season statement of Jubilee.
Thank you, Pauline. So good to be here, y'all. We are in the season of Jubilee, which is a very long season here at Freedom Church of the Poor. And I will say a bit more about that. Characterized by biblical stories and historical and contemporary examples in which every need is supplied, such as the Garden of Eden, manna in the wilderness, the practice of Jubilee, and the early Christian communities. This theme describes the anti-poverty programs that run throughout the Bible. The season of Jubilee parallels Pentecost, when God's Spirit was poured out on a multiracial movement of Jesus followers, as well as the season just after, often known as ordinary time. These biblical narratives provide not just our moral justification that everybody has a right to live, but also how that reality can be achieved, which ought to be ordinary in our lives and in our world.
Thank you so much, Adam. And so I would actually like to, that song that we all listened to for the prelude, we're actually going to sing together. And so the lyrics are, may this body be a bridge for the healing of this land. May the river flow through us, cleansing greed from our hands. We are born from the water. We are made from the land. Teach us, oh great mother, to bring peace to this land. And this song was written by Tay Martin when Tay visited the encampments at Standing Rock. And Tay actually looked at the encampment of Standing Rock and thought a lot about what was happening in Palestine. And so we just wanted to kind of lift up the histories of those. And so I'm going to sing, and then feel free to repeat this lyric after me. May this body be a bridge for the healing of this land. May this body be a bridge for the healing of this land. May the river flow through us, cleansing greed from our hands. May the river flow through us, cleansing greed from our hands. And we are born from the water. Let's do that. We are born from the water. You got it. We are made from the land. We are made from the land. Teach us, oh great mother. Teach us, oh great mother, to bring peace to the land, to bring peace to the land. Thank you for singing with me. When we sing together, our hearts beat together. And that song can be found on many of our Kairos cultural resources. And so we'll drop that link in the chat. And so next, we are going to have let's see here, just pulling up my notes. Next, we're going to have a sacred reading. So Sheila, if you're ready, sorry, my computer's going full screen. And I can't see anything. Give me one second.
No worries. I think there may be a slight lag with my audio and visual. So if it looks like this is like, I don't know, a badly dubbed 1980s B movie, that may present an issue.
No worries at all. Let's see. I actually, friends, I can't find the. Okay, give me 1 second. So how about, so yes, thank you for that. So let's start with the reading of the poem, and then I'm going to share the slide when I get to a better window. Sounds good? With the, yeah, okay. Take it away, Sheila. Welcome, Sheila.
Sounds good. What grows from blood-soaked soil? Actually, pretty much anything can. The minerals you hold within you are the same ones that nourish trees, rough bark protecting fragile phloem, that the basics of life flow through just as easily as your veins. Connecting us even through tragedy, destruction, murder, genocide. Yes, the land remembers. She just decides that bloodshed will not be an ending. She decides on life, no matter how many want her dead. So the murderer is up to the ante, settling on new tactics that last long after the bodies cool. What grows from oil-soaked soil? Hardly anything. Life choked before it could ever breathe, a pipeline carrying crude, premeditated murder. What grows from cement-soaked soil? Hardly anything. Oh, but such death by development is civilized, to never touch anything that can feel. What grows from uranium-soaked soil? Hardly anything. Bombs dropped, fallout settles in our bones. It produces power only for those who already stole it, though they prefer to keep their methods in the dark. How is it that somehow murder is not the worst they can do? Separate survivors from who loves them, try to prevent the land from growing back with those who love her, keep the wound open, prevent her from growing the plants that heal, that can grow even from blood. She knows how to produce life from death until they take away even that. They think we're stuck in the past, but don't want us to have a future. Present false choices. What grows from settler-soaked soil? Hardly anything. The land resists their commands. She waits. She knows bloodshed is not their worst. Isolation, exploitation, slow poison to prevent remediation. What grows from abandoned soil? No one. It's not over when the blood stops flooding the ground. It's over when nobody can return.
Thank you so very much. At this time, I'd like to invite, thank you. We can actually all take a deep breath in to think about that poem. Poems that pose questions to all of us. At this point, I'd like to pass this to Jesse, for Jesse to offer some words as well.
Yeah, that's just such a good like piece and reflection, Sheila. And oh my God. Yeah, so I have a thing that's like well actually I have a couple different things, but one is it's something that's like dear to my heart. It's a story that I grew up with, and it's kind of like a little like rhyme scheme that I kind of like did with it to kind of like reflect the current landscape of the world, you know, thousands of years later after this story takes place, you know. And so I'll go ahead and do the rhyming part of it first, and then I'll tell the story afterwards. That way you can kind of get the insights from it. So or no, I'll tell the story first, and then I'll do it that way. Folks have more insights into like what's going on with the song or whatever. All right, so the story is called "The Origin of Disease and Medicine," and Cherokee oral tradition. Because I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma. I come from a small community there. I was like raised in it. I live away now, but I've gone back and forth my whole life, and so a lot of this stuff that I was raised with really sticks with me. Especially it's just special to me. So this is called The Origin of Disease and Medicine, and this is basically like a story about how there wasn't sickness and there was balance in this world in a before time. And so in this story, it talks about how humans were latecomers to Earth, Elohi, as we call it. The plants and animals and other life forms, they were already here. And you know, like other creatures, we had to test our boundaries and make mistakes and learn from our experiences, create relationships, and change our offending behaviors in order to not just survive, but to live in balance with all these beings in existence. And this is an ongoing process. And so this story starts out, it goes, Ilahiyu Jagesa Nagada Inagehi Nahei Jalagi Janawoni Ska. And the great forever that was, the forest dwellers, they all spoke Cherokee. This was a place created by Unefla Nahi, which is like it's kind of like an architect of the universe or an energy that exists through all of it. And everyone lived in friendship. But as humans came, we began to push these beings from their lands, and it began to get cramped for space. We had invented knives, blowguns, spears, gigs, bows, hatchets, and we started killing lots of animals so we could have fur for clothes, just all the pieces of all the animals that you use for tools and housing and stuff like that. And so the forest dwellers kind of got tired of us pushing them from from their lands, and tired of us killing them. And so they held a council. And within this council, they said that they would need 7 votes to kind of like condemn us to have something bad happen to us. And so the bears held their council, and the bears came to the conclusion that something needed to be done about us. The deer held a council. The deer decided that they would inflict diseases on us, like arthritis and joint diseases. The fish and reptiles held a council, and they decided that we needed to be haunted in our dreams, especially the humans that abuse them. Uh, and then last, the birds, animals, and insects gathered in a council, and they were the 7th vote overall. And so with this, with this, they decided to inflict disease and bad energy, kind of like on us, the humans, for what we were doing. But you know, the forest dwellers, the animals and things, they weren't the only things that existed. You know, there's plants and trees and stuff like that. And the plants and trees kind of liked us. They kind of like and they kind of felt bad for the humans because like we were getting the sickness put on us and we didn't really know what was going on. And so, kind of like to make the longer story short, the plants decided to hold a council with the animals and the humans, and we all came to an agreement to where we wouldn't just kill animals for their clothes, and that the plants would begin to offer up different things for our housing and our clothes, but also medicines to kind of counteract these diseases for any time that the humans were doing wrong. And so yeah, each spirit of each plant, you know, holds a medicine, and it's important that that we keep the plants in good shape and we don't like poison the plants, because then the plants can't help us fix the sickness that animals have put onto people whenever people don't do right. So like a while back I was like asked to share like a poem or write a poem or some words or something about like uh just like how I feel about the different things that are going on. And so this is what I came up with, but it relates to this story because but it's just like a modern spin on it, kind of like how I said earlier. And so I'll go ahead with that now. uh we kill too many animals and that creates the sickness. We kill too many plants and there ain't no way to fix us. we're killing ourselves, and look at where it gets us. I look within myself, and I think I see the mix up. So I'm re-engineering all that waste space. I'm beginning to know the flavors of all the great tastes that are rolling over me like a wave. These are the times and days where all is out of balance, and we seek to find the ways where we should make it, create it, and see where we can take it. The universe is endless. Our potential is the greatest. I remember the agreements, and the balance is where my fate is. I that's that that's it. And so for me, that's the modern spin on the old thing, because this is an old story to my people and us, to keep the balance and not abuse the animals and remember the plants and all the other elements of the earth. And now it feels like we're at a time to where that's it's thought of less and less, you know, and so I just feel like it's important. So thanks you all.
Yes. Thank you. So very necessary. I mean, such amazing questions are being posed in both of these texts that we're reading. Are there any, I want to create space first for Sheila. Are there any reflections after having read your poem, and then after hearing Jesse's piece, any reflections that you'd like to add and offer up in the space today?
Thank you, Jesse, so much for reading that and giving the background. I always think it's really special when we as Indigenous peoples share different parts of our spirituality and creation stories, because one, there's so much wisdom that is still needed and applicable to today in those stories. And then two, because colonialism did everything it possibly could to try and make sure that wisdom was gone. So not only did colonialism try and like decimate us and destroy us in the moment, it kind of like what I was getting at in my poem, it did everything it could to try and make sure we couldn't come back, including trying to destroy the wisdom that we have in our stories, that we need right now to try and try and continue surviving. So, and thank you so much for reading that.
Yeah, and I get kind of nervous, like when it comes to telling the stories and stuff like that. Like I definitely wasn't in my goodest narrator for for it, but I appreciate that. And Sheila, as far as Sheila's poem goes, like it's just really moving the parts. You know, it's like what can grow from blood-soaked soil, you know, anything, because it's all made from the same things. But once you begin to like destroy the earth and like, you know, pull the uranium out, turn it into like fuel and bombs and different things like that, there's not much growing in those places that have been impacted by that. In the places where there's oil spills, there's not things growing. And you know, and for me, that poem really ties to like this story in my words a little bit, because it's like the the animals, you know, and the plants and stuff are destroyed. So
Yes. And Freedom Church of the Poor Family, is there anyone who has other reflections around that thought? That the ways that within which we destroy the land are the ways that we are creating this death-dealing society. I mean, I think the line in Sheila, the line that really struck me, just knowing of so many things happening too, is like, what grows in uranium-soaked soil? Nothing. And the fact that we are mining uranium in indigenous land all over this country right now is baffling to me. But maybe it shouldn't be actually baffling to me. And knowing our histories around that.
Hi,
Somebody raised their hand. Yes.
oh yeah, this is Mike. Yeah, I really liked what you both said. Like, it kind of calms me down, just what you're saying. Like, there's I don't know. I think there's some like hidden assumptions, like with Christianity. Like, I'm a Christian, but like about maybe dualism. Like, there's good and evil, but it seems almost like what you're talking about is like there's more like a balance. Like, things working together that are not necessarily good or evil. It's just like imbalance. I don't know if that's right, the way to think about it, but and then like the great mother, like, yeah, I'll have to think about it. Like, I'm just trying to figure out if like there's something in the idea of Christianity that creates like violence or something. Like, I don't know. Like there might be like it might be a feature, not a bug, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. I'd like to, if I could talk to someone more about that, that'd be interesting.
Let's see. And Diane, thanks for sharing. And, you know, it's great because our organizers here want to always create spaces for those conversations, Mike. Diane, I see your hand.
Yes. We had a discussion today. We had an interfaith walk, and we were talking about various things like the land, and someone pointed out that Adam or Adam, the first man, means coming from the earth. It's connected with the soil. Dam is the word for blood in both Arabic and Hebrew. And I think about how connected to the soil and the trees Palestinians are at this moment. And I saw just a grandmother holding on to her olive tree that was about to be uprooted. And so, and I'm thinking how much I've learned from both Palestinian spirituality and connection to the earth, and native spirituality and connection to the earth.
Thank you, Diane. I think I'm going to move us a little bit along. And so I wonder, Sheila, is it okay would you like to share your Speak with Convictions poem at this moment? Because I think some of the topics that we're talking about are actually also kind of in some of the conversations that we've had before. I think it's a nice lead up into it. So I'm going to share my screen. I actually got the screen share.
Nice.
Correct this time. Yeah. Okay. So
I am definitely down to share Speak with Convictions.
Awesome. Okay, let me pull it up.
Yeah. While you're doing that, I'll give a little bit of background. So one of my many hats is working with Poetry for Planet, which is a international and actually primarily global South-based, youth-led, people of color-led organization for environmental justice. And like the name implies, we try to promote environmental justice through poetry. As we've seen, it's really important to have a narrative shift and a mind shift with the way we look at nature, earth, and each other for there to be any success. So that's Poetry for Planet. And this poem was inspired by our Poem a Day challenge, which I think we're going to need to have another one soon because it was really good. And you would get a random word as a prompt for a poem. And this one was prompted by the word conviction. Okay, so without further ado, when a mediocre white man speaks with conviction, he gets elected to run a genocidal state. Founded on settler entitlement and murder, sustained by settler entitlement and murder, an international learned helplessness helps him dodge convictions of his crimes against those who he denies humanity. Dropping bombs like confetti, no matter which party, raping whole countries with insatiable bloodlust, then he'll say they asked for it. Say they provoked him and his cronies. Execute anyone who says otherwise. Control the story. Just speak with conviction. Never mind the violent eviction of a land's rightful relatives whose hearts still beat in time with the rhythm of the home they loved. Hearts these genocidal, mediocre monsters have bombed to smithereens. Hearts shot in cold blood with bullets fired by mediocre monsters who confuse themselves with gods. Hearts stopped by starvation, aided by enabling nations with nothing but fraudulent claims to legitimacy themselves. They just speak with conviction. To replace the convictions they rightfully should carry, with the audacity to dine those who resist such terrorists, call those who bear witness and speak truth meticulously documented to false power, call their veracity absurdity, call their courage attention-seeking, anything to control the story. But somehow, empty rhetoric is backfiring. Flash and lies are insufficient when the whole world's eyes are on you. Eyes that shed tears for the innocent relatives you mediocre monsters murdered. They know, and we, in solidarity, fight and pray, holding our breath for when, no matter how bombastic their unjustifications, the perpetrators of genocide will speak with convictions.
Take a deep breath and bring that in. And we, in solidarity, fight and pray, holding our breath for when, no matter how bombastic their unjustifications, the perpetrators of genocide will speak with convictions. Such a powerful line. Are there, in some of the conversations that we've had in thinking about that poem, we've talked a little bit about like the reclaiming of spirituality, and then also the appropriation of spirituality. And Sheila, I don't know if you wanted to offer some of your wisdom around that element of it, and then we'll open it up.
Yeah, so one of the things that strikes me a lot about appropriations of indigenous spirituality is sort of the expectation that comes on, regular indigenous people just walking around, that we would be an expert on our own spirituality. And it's like, one, you all had a lot of systems in place to prevent that, so this is your fault. Two, you don't just like walk up to some random person who you may assume to be a Christian and be like, can you please give me a sermon? Like, there's this understanding with religions that are more white coded, honestly, that there's training and expertise and all of these steps you have to go through before you can do that. Like, there's all this training, etc. And it's really frustrating that even though indigenous spirituality is appropriated to make people feel good, because there is a lot of good in it, that it is still not respected as evidence of us being complex, multidimensional beings with complex belief systems that indicate that we're on the same par as colonizers. That's all I got. That's all I got on that one.
Thank you so much, Sheila. And then I also wondered in this moment, Sheila or Jesse, if there's anything that you would like to, we're going to move into prayers of the people. And so I think, Jesse, you might be able to offer up something for us. But before then, I wondered actually if you could share with people like the works that you're doing now. We're going to bring up some of the stuff in the calls to action. Sheila has maybe a contingent that she's going with. Jesse, I know that your organization is dealing with the problem of uranium soaked soil. And so I wondered if we could actually just have some space for you to both kind of share some of the work that you're doing in this moment.
I could go ahead and share some. I don't really have that many calls to action right now. We kind of have just finished like some different stuff that's kind of like heavy, but yeah. So I originally am from Oklahoma and come from a community. I live in Michigan now, but part of me getting to Michigan or being here now kind of stems from a uranium processing plant that like was in my community that's now a super fun site. And so that's when I was first introduced into the uranium fuel chain, the nuclear fuel chain. And live here in Michigan now, and there's like this nuclear reactor that's like kind of like in bad shape. So and it's like ran by like a for-profit utility called DCE. It's like they're like one of the worst utilities in the country. And so we basically do work uh, uh, around this reactor. But the main, I'll go ahead and throw our website on there. Feel free to check it out and sign up for our newsletter. So we use this reactor as our pivot point for like our national work too. So we work with different folks at different steps of the field chain. The kids down there hanging around. But yeah, so we work with folks at different steps of the field chain from like uranium mining. And so like right now there's like this big push to like build more nuclear in the United States and like globally, I guess. And but there's like a couple problems here because like the original effects and devastation and a lot of the things has never been addressed. There's still communities poisoned by old uranium mining, by old nuclear or uranium processing plants and conversion plants. And so uh yeah, so we work to try to like with different communities at like every step of the field chain who are fighting for accountability or to prevent certain things from happening or just nuclear abolition in general. And yeah, just trying to build a network, our that's all. That's all.
Building of networks, we think about that every day. Thank you so much, Jesse. Sheila, do you want to share a little bit about maybe the Backbone campaign that you might be going on possibly?
Yeah. So I am an organizer for a delegation called a Wisdom Keepers Delegation. The A is important because there's so many different wisdom keepers out there. We certainly don't want to make any presumptions that we are like the wisdom keepers. In any case, we are advocating for indigenous solutions to climate change. And we do this at high levels in the UN. So we were at COP28 last year in Dubai. We were in Bonn, Germany this year. I got to corner some people from the State Department. It was awesome. Um, so that's always fun. I'm not sure how effective it was, like in the short term, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like when people ask, okay, well, what did you do to try and prevent destruction by all of these sort of normal ways and means, by all of these procedural methods? And it's like, even if it's not effective at that point, when we try other methods like direct action or something, we have documentation and proof that, like, yes, we did absolutely everything we could. We went to the UN and tried to have a civil and reasonable discussion about this, and that still didn't work. So what do you expect us to do? In any case, this year we are going to COP29. It's in Azerbaijan. And one of the things that's very important to us as a community grounded organization is that we're very careful about who we take money from. So we're very careful with the organizations that we partner with for media and such. And therefore, we do have some small crowd donations if the donation link would like to be shared. And that also just has a lot more information about us. So if you're interested in any type of collaboration or follow-up, Pauline has my contact info, and I would be happy to continue the discussion about some of the work we do. Or if you have any connections in UN climate space, we're always happy to leverage those. So,
Yes. Thank you both so very, very much. I look forward to watching this service over and over again this week to really absorb all the information. And so at this moment, Jesse, I'm not sure how it feels right now to just maybe offer up a grounding prayer, and then Adam's going to lift up prayers of the people. So please feel free, for those watching on our Facebook, to write in prayers that you have for this week. Freedom Church of the Poor organizers, we will look at those prayers and lift them up in our hearts and in our minds.
Yeah, totally. So this is like kind of perfect, especially with Sheila's poems and some of the things she uplifted about like language and stuff like that being kind of like erased from us. Like I'm like the first generation of my people that didn't that's not a first language speaker, and that's mainly because of boarding schools and the different things that, you know, and the intentionality or the intentional erasure of our cultures and language. And so this is just like a little like generic, like a generic prayer, Cherokee prayer. I'm actually learning it in Cherokee or whatever it is, so I'll speak it in English for now. So my folks, we have a different directions that we pray to, you know, your cardinal directions, and then the below world, the here world, and then the upper world. And each place has a job that it does. It has a energy that it brings to the balance. And so we like to give thanks for all those different directions. And so I'll go ahead and read. I'll go ahead and read this off here. Uh, so we have east, which is where the sun rises. This is the appearing way. Merciful Creator, thank you for the sun, which purifies. It brings light into the world, enlightenment into the darkness, and understanding into the ignorant. Help us be the bearers of the light. The north, from the way of the cold. Thank you for the cold. The snow brings the snow that the winter brings. It brings purity to the earth and renews your creation. We give thanks for the seasons of winter in our lives. It is our facing of such trials that allows you to renew our lives. Grant us the strength to endure. The West, the disappearing way, uh, the parents of the ancestors. Thank you for the stories, the experiences, and the stories of your faithfulness to your people. Grant us the ears to listen when and to hear you, and the wisdom to live accordingly. From the South, which is the warm way, from the way of the warm creator of life. Thank you for the times of growth which we experience. Thank you for nurturing us and help us to grow, and for the blessings and enable us to be a blessing to each other. Under, this is Lohi Hinawaditla, the way of the low, creator of Mother Earth. We give thanks for providing our every need, for calling us out into earth and seeking a relationship with each one of us, and for granting us the opportunity to be in sacred relationship with you and all of your creation. The inwards, which is actually here on earth, on this first layer of earth here, we call it Elohi. From the center of our being, creator within and without, we pray in all those directions, remembering your faithfulness, and with all of who we are, we offer ourselves in our prayer to you this day. And to the uppermost way, uh creation in the highest, we give thanks. Hear all this from here above. What do go? Yeah, that's just an acknowledgement to all the directions and how we relate to them, and ways to remember.
Thank you so very much, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse. Yeah, if folks have any prayers that you want lifted up, any joys or concerns, you can put those in the chat now or throughout the week, and we'll continue to lift them up. Just want to extend a deep prayer of gratitude to Jesse and to Sheila, and for your beauty and your truth, and for what you brought to us tonight and what you bring into the world every day. Pray for continued strength and joy and friendship and love from our community. And also a prayer of thanks to this Freedom Church of the Poor, and for our movement community, who each and every one of you helps us get up every day and
and continue to fight for that world of balance and peace that Jesse described. Also, lifting up a prayer for Mary for free and fair elections. I know a lot of the violence and potential for violence around these elections is on our hearts and minds. So thank you, Mary.
Amazing family. I'm going to share my screen one final time for this meeting. And I just want to lift up some calls to action. They will be dropped in the chat as well. But this is the Backbone campaign that Sheila was talking about. They are accepting donations to send that delegation. So please go to the site, visit it. Also, this is Craft Citizens Resistance at the Fermi too. And that link will also be dropped in the chat and in the chat on this Zoom call as well. Shut down Fermi, very important. And then our other calls to action are to sign up for the Freedom Church of the Poor. Reminder, those were really fun pictures. Let me go back to that other slide. A reminder that we have Bible study every Wednesday. And actually that this Bible study this Wednesday, I believe, is going to be Dr. Carr. It's going to come back and join us. And that Bible study happens every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time if you're in my time. And then also we have a ministers training commissioning fundraiser that we are invoking. And so we'll put that in the chat as well. But if you could go to bit.ly/MT commissioning24, that sends ministers training graduates to the Freedom Church Support Commissioning that we're going to be having in the month of December. And finally, if you're on this call, there is a survival summit that is being organized by the policy team at the Kairos Center, Survival Strategies, on October 17th at 7 p.m. It's open to the public. We're going to hear an experts all around the rise of religious nationalism, Project 2025, the conditions of poverty right now, lessons that we could learn from the pandemic era with anti-poverty programs, and some deep research that actually comes out from communities. And we're going to hear about some key findings and some key findings about which direction to go next. And so please come to that. That is on October 17th at 7 p.m. The link will also be dropped in the chat. And I think that's all that we have for announcements. I'm going to pass it over to my friend Sierra to close us out in song.
Whew. Thank you so much, Pauline, Adam, Freedom Church crew, Becca, who's always holding us down with tech. Thank you, of course, to Sheila and Jesse. And with that, the Indigenous Environmental Network, which is how Pauline and I were able to first connect with Sheila, and also with Nora of Craft, who in turn connected us to Jesse. And just thinking about what beautiful connections are being woven even in these horrendous and heartbreaking times that we're in. And I've just been thinking so much and reflecting so much on religion and spirituality in this moment, and the role that it has in our society, and thinking about the politics of it, because it is political. Culture is political. Religion, for better or worse, is political, and it's how it's wielded and service of whom. And obviously we've lifted up the ways in which the ruling class wields religion in order to manipulate, to divide, to exterminate, for the purposes of empire. And the responsibility that we have as communities in struggle, as the poor and dispossessed, to not give up our culture, give up our religion, give up our spirituality, give up our languages, our music, our poetry, that we have to struggle for that. And that takes all of us. And I just really appreciate
what has been shared in this call, and thinking about, who is the expert. I feel like Sheila was bringing that up. Who gets the say on what morality is? And I believe that we do. The people do. The people who are hurting. We are a spiritual people. We have to be, in order to survive all that we've survived, and to continue on in the face of the dangers of now, and to refuse to be manipulated and pitted against one another. And so I just really appreciate folks sharing here tonight. I was thinking about this poem. It's a poem by Palestinian poet Marwan Makhul, called On Politics and Poetry. It's very short. In order for me to write poetry that isn't political, I must listen to the birds. And in order to hear the birds, the warplanes must be silent. An organizer with Uptown for Palestine, Alexis, put together a melody and shaped this poem into a song that we've been using, a song that I feel like just really fits the vibe tonight. And so the lyrics are, I know you all are on mute, but if you'd like to sing it with me, the lyrics are: to write a poem without politics, I have to hear the birds. But to hear the birds, the warplanes must be silent. And it goes like this. To write a poem without politics, I have to hear the birds. But to hear the birds, the warplanes must be silent. The warplanes must be silent. To write a poem without politics, to write a poem without politics, I have to hear the birds. I have to hear the birds. But to hear the birds, but to hear the birds, the warplanes must be silent. The warplanes must be silent. To write a poem without politics, to write a poem without politics, I have to hear the birds. I have to hear the birds. But to hear the birds, but to hear the birds, the warplanes must be silent. The warplanes must be silent. To write a poem without politics, to write a poem without politics, I have to hear the birds. I have to hear the birds. But to hear the birds, but to hear the birds, the warplanes must be silent. The warplanes must be silent. But to hear the birds, to hear the birds, the warplanes must be silent. The warplanes must be silent. There's a story that was shared with me by an indigenous comrade. It's the story of this prophecy. There's a belief that the world is divided in, sort of two hemispheres, with the north being represented by the eagle, a masculine energy, and the south represented by a condor, a feminine energy. And there's this prophecy that one day these two worlds will come together, the north and the south, the condor and the eagle. And we will have a beautiful world of peace where we can all live together and be together. And so just thinking about this poet, but to hear the birds, the warplanes must be silent. Let's keep singing. Let's keep writing poetry. Let's keep praying as our birds getting louder and louder and drowning out the sound of these warplanes, and to fight for them to be silent. Thank you all again for joining us this evening.